Good evening, my friends. Tonight, I want to challenge you to wake something up inside of you that has been lying dormant for too long. I want to talk about a mindset, an attitude, and a way of living that some of us have embraced, often to our own detriment. The title of tonight's message is simple yet profound: Stop being soft to everyone. Now, I'm not talking about losing your kindness, your compassion, or your humanity. Those are the fruits of a good heart, and we should never stop being kind. But there is a difference, my friends, between being kind and being a pushover. There's a difference between being compassionate and letting people walk all over you. Some of you are trying to please everyone, and in the process you're losing yourself. You bend so far backward to accommodate others that you end up breaking your own spirit. You say yes when you mean no. You sacrifice your peace for someone else's comfort, and you let people take advantage of your time, your energy, and your resources. Let me tell you something right now. There is a price to pay for being soft to everyone, and the cost is your joy, it's your purpose, it's your destiny. You cannot fulfill the purpose you were created for if you are constantly bending to the will of others. You were not designed to carry every burden, fix every problem, or be everything to everyone. That's God's job, not yours. Well, some of you need to stop giving people unlimited access to your life. Listen carefully, not everyone deserves a front row seat to your journey. Some people are only meant to stand at a distance and watch. You've got to learn how to set boundaries. A boundary is not rejection, it's protection. It protects your time, your energy, and your purpose. And let me tell you something, when you set boundaries, the people who truly care about you will respect them. The ones who don't, well, their reaction is not your responsibility. Now, let's talk about your relationships. Some of you are holding on to toxic relationships because you're afraid to let go. You're afraid of what they'll say or how they'll feel. But let me ask you this: how much longer are you going to sacrifice your peace for the sake of someone who doesn't value it? Well, sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to say, enough is enough. It's not about being cruel, it's about being honest. You're not helping anyone by allowing them to treat you poorly. Let me remind you of something powerful. You are not a doormat. You are not a convenience store open 24/7 for anyone to come and go as they please. You are a person of value, a person of worth, and you deserve to be treated as such. Knowing your worth is one of the most empowering realizations you can have in life. It's the foundation of your self-esteem, the bedrock upon which you build your relationships, your career, and your overall sense of self. But for many people, understanding their worth is not something that comes easily or naturally. Society, culture, and even our own internal self-doubts often work against us, making it hard to fully grasp just how valuable we are. But understanding your worth is crucial, not just for your own well-being, but for your success, happiness, and ability to live with purpose. In a world that constantly demands more from us, it's easy to forget that we are enough just as we are. Whether it's the pressure to be more successful, more attractive, or more popular, we're often conditioned to believe that we need to keep striving, achieving, and becoming something more in order to be worthy. But the truth is that your worth doesn't depend on what you do or what you have. It's inherent in who you are. Your worth is not something you have to earn. It's already been given to you. To truly know your worth, you first have to understand that it is not determined by external factors. Your value is not based on how much money you make, what job you have, or how many followers you have on social media. It's not about your appearance or your status in society. It's about the core of who you are, your unique identity, your talents, your abilities, and your inherent value as a human being. You are worthy because you exist, because you have been created for a purpose, and because you have the potential to impact the world in ways only you can. One of the most damaging myths that many people believe is that their worth is tied to their achievements. The harder you work, the more you accomplish, the better you look, the more valuable you become. This mindset can lead to burnout, exhaustion, and a constant sense of inadequacy because no matter how much you do, it never feels like enough. This relentless pursuit of perfection can cause you to overlook the beauty and strength that already exists within you. The truth is that you are worthy right now as you are. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. Your worth isn't something you can earn or lose based on your accomplishments or failures. It is intrinsic, woven into the very fabric of your being. And when you truly understand this, it changes everything. When you know your worth, you stop allowing others to dictate how you should feel about yourself. You stop letting people take advantage of you. Stop tolerating disrespect and stop allowing others to set the standards for what you should be or do. Realize that you are enough as you are, and you deserve to be treated with the same respect and kindness that you extend to others. However, knowing your worth doesn't mean you stop growing or striving for more. It means that you do so from a place of self-respect and confidence rather than from a place of insecurity or need for validation. Where you set goals, not because you feel you're not enough without them, but because you recognize your potential and want to bring more of that greatness into the world. You pursue your dreams because you know that you have something valuable to offer and you believe that your contribution matters. The way you carry yourself and interact with others also reflects your understanding of your worth. When you know your worth, you don't seek approval from others because you already know you are valuable. Where you don't measure your success by how many people affirm you, but by how you feel about yourself. You stop looking to external sources for validation because you found validation within yourself. It's essential to recognize that knowing your worth also means setting boundaries. Many people struggle with this because they fear rejection or conflict. They want to please everyone and be liked by everyone. But when you know your worth, you understand that not everyone deserves access to your time, your energy, or your heart. You set limits on what you will tolerate, and you don't allow others to treat you in ways that diminish your sense of self-respect. Setting boundaries is an act of self-love and self-preservation. It's a way of protecting your emotional and mental well-being from those who may seek to drain you or take advantage of you. Another key aspect of knowing your worth is understanding that you are not defined by your past. So many people hold on to past mistakes, regrets, or failures and allow these experiences shape their sense of value. But your past does not dictate your future. You are not defined by your mistakes or your shortcomings. You are defined by your capacity for growth, your willingness to learn, and your ability to rise above challenges. Your worth is not something that can be tarnished by your past. It is something that can only be enhanced by how you choose to move forward. When you know your worth, you also realize that you don't have to compete with others. The world has conditioned us to compare ourselves to everyone around us, whether it's our colleagues, our friends, or people on social media. We've been taught to measure our success against others, to feel inadequate if we don't measure up. But when you understand your worth, you stop competing, you stop comparing, you realize that there is no one else like you in the world and makes you unique and irreplaceable. Your journey is your own, and it doesn't need to look like anyone else's. In relationships, knowing your worth means you attract people who value you for who you are, not for what you can do for them. It means you're able to walk away from relationships that are toxic or unfulfilling because you understand that you deserve more. It means you seek out people who lift you up, who celebrate your successes, and who support you in your struggles. It means you surround yourself with individuals who see your worth and treat you accordingly. Knowing your worth also frees you from the need for external validation. So many of us seek validation from others, whether it's in our careers, our relationships, or our social circles. We want people to tell us we're doing a good job, that we look good, or that we're worthy of love and success. But when you know your worth, you no longer seek that approval. You give it to yourself. You don't need others to validate your worth because you know it to be true. Your confidence doesn't come from what others think of you, but from your own internal recognition of your value. This understanding also leads to a more fulfilling and meaningful life. When you know your worth, you make decisions based on what is best for you, not on what others expect or what society dictates. When you make choices that align with your values and your goals, rather than trying to live up to someone else's standards, you pursue your passions, take risks, and follow your heart because you know you are worthy of success and happiness. The road to knowing your worth is not always easy. It requires deep introspection, self-awareness, and sometimes the courage to let go of relationships or situations that no longer serve you, but the rewards are immeasurable. When you know your worth, you step into your power. You stop living in fear and start living with confidence. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into others' expectations and start embracing your true self. When you know your worth, the world can try to knock you down, but you will rise up. You will face challenges head on, knowing that you are capable, strong, and worthy of overcoming anything that comes your way. You will refuse to settle for less than you deserve, and you will make decisions that reflect your belief in your own value. You will attract opportunities that align with your purpose and your potential, and you will move forward in life with the knowledge that you are worthy of every blessing that comes your way. So let this be your mantra: I am worthy, I am valuable, I am enough. And when you embrace this truth, everything in your life will begin to shift. The way you see yourself, the way others see you, and the way you interact with the world will change. Because when you know your worth, you stop living in the shadows of self-doubt and step into the light of your full potential. And that, my friends, is where the magic happens. Setting boundaries is one of the most powerful tools you can have in your personal and professional life. It's a tool that helps preserve your energy, protect your mental health, and ensure that you're living a life that aligns with your values. And yet for many people, the concept of setting boundaries can feel foreign or uncomfortable. Some may feel guilty for saying no or worry about disappointing others. Some may fear confrontation or rejection, while others might not even know where to start. But what I want you to understand is this: boundaries are not a way to shut people out, but a way to protect yourself so you can live a fuller, more intentional life. And at the heart of setting boundaries is the understanding that you are the gatekeeper of your own time, energy, and emotional well-being. When you fail to establish boundaries, you're essentially leaving the door wide open for people, circumstances, and responsibilities to take over your life. Without clear boundaries, your time becomes everyone else's, your emotions become subject to external forces, and your energy gets drained by demands that don't serve you. Boundaries allow you to protect what matters most: your time, your energy, and your emotional health. One of the most common issues people face when trying to set boundaries is the fear of what others will think. We live in a culture that often encourages people-pleasing behavior. We're taught that saying yes, being available all the time, and putting the needs of others before our own is a sign of kindness and generosity. But there's a fine line between kindness and self-sacrifice. And when you continuously put everyone else's needs ahead of your own, you start to lose yourself in the process. Setting boundaries means acknowledging that your needs, your time, and your well-being are just as important as anyone else's. This isn't about being selfish, but about being self-respecting. When you fail to set boundaries, you allow others to dictate the terms of your life. They set the pace, they take up your time, they determine your emotional state, and they dictate what's important. But when you set boundaries, you take back control. You choose how to spend your time, with whom you invest your energy, and what emotional space you're willing to offer to others. Setting boundaries can feel uncomfortable at first because it goes against the grain of what many people are accustomed to. Saying no, turning down a request, or expressing your needs can feel foreign when you've been conditioned to constantly say yes. But it's important to remember that boundaries are not about rejection. They are about preservation, preserving your time, your energy, and your emotional state so that you can be the best version of yourself, not just for others, but for you. A key to setting effective boundaries is knowing what you need and being clear about it. Too often we don't set boundaries because we don't even know what they should be. We allow ourselves to be pulled in every direction because we haven't taken the time to understand what our own needs are. The first step in setting boundaries is taking an honest look at your life and identifying where you're feeling drained, overwhelmed, or taken advantage of. What areas of your life need protection? Is it your time, your emotional space, your physical space, or your mental health? Once you know what you need, you can begin to create clear, specific boundaries to safeguard those things. Another important aspect of setting boundaries is learning to communicate them effectively. It's not enough to simply know what you need. You must also communicate those needs to others. Often people don't respect our boundaries because we fail to communicate them clearly. We may feel uncomfortable or guilty about expressing our needs, but the truth is that clear communication is a sign of respect. When you communicate your boundaries to others, you are showing them that you respect yourself and your time. This doesn't mean you need to be rude or confrontational. You can express your boundaries with kindness and clarity. One of the most difficult areas to set boundaries is in relationships, whether with family, friends, or romantic partners. Many people find it hard to say no to those they love for fear of disappointing them or damaging the relationship. But if you constantly say yes, you risk losing yourself in the process. Healthy relationships are based on mutual respect, and respect means honoring each other's boundaries. If you're afraid that setting a boundary will cause tension, it's important to remember that your relationships will only thrive if there's respect on both sides. When you set a boundary in a relationship, it's essential to be consistent. It's not enough to establish a boundary once and then let it slide when it's convenient. Consistency is key because boundaries only work when they're reinforced over time. If you let people push past your boundaries once, they'll likely continue to do so. If you're consistent, however, people will learn to respect your limits and understand that you're serious about maintaining your space. In the workplace, boundaries are just as important. Many people struggle with setting boundaries at work because they want to be seen as hardworking, capable, and committed. They fear that setting limits will make them seem less dedicated or less available. But the truth is that failing to set boundaries at work can lead to burnout, stress, and diminished productivity. You cannot give your best if you're constantly overwhelmed or stretched too thin. That setting boundaries at work might mean saying no to extra projects that you don't have the time or energy for. It might mean turning off your email notifications after work hours to avoid being constantly on call. It might mean asking for help or delegating tasks that aren't your responsibility. Boundaries at work are not a sign of weakness, they're a sign of strength. Setting boundaries also involves knowing when to walk away. Sometimes people will not respect your boundaries, no matter how clearly you communicate them. In these cases, the most powerful boundary you can set is to walk away from the situation or relationship entirely. This can be one of the hardest things to do, especially if you have emotional ties to the situation. But you must remember that you deserve to be treated with respect, and you cannot allow others to continue to violate your boundaries without consequences. Walking away from toxic situations is an act of self-preservation, and it's essential for your mental and emotional health. Learning to say no is perhaps the most powerful tool in your boundary-setting toolkit. Many people struggle with saying no because they fear rejection or disappointment, but the truth is that saying no is necessary for self-care. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't serve you, you're saying no to something that does. Saying no to things that don't align with your values or goals is essential for maintaining balance in your life. Remember that no is a complete sentence. You don't need to explain or justify your decision. Simply saying no with kindness and firmness is enough. There may be times when people try to push back against your boundaries. They may question your decisions, make you feel guilty, or try to convince you to change your mind. This is when it's important to be strong and firm. Remember that your boundaries are not negotiable. They are a reflection of your needs and values, and you have every right to maintain them. Don't let others pressure you into compromising your boundaries just to make them happy. Boundaries are also about protecting your energy. We all have a finite amount of energy each day, and if we're constantly giving it away to people or situations that drain us, we'll have nothing left for ourselves. Protecting your energy means saying no to things that are emotionally draining, mentally exhausting, or physically taxing. It means recognizing when you're overextended and need to take a step back. Setting boundaries around your energy ensures that you have the capacity to do the things that matter most to you without burning out in the process. Setting boundaries is not a one-time act, it's an ongoing practice. As you grow and evolve, your boundaries may need to shift. As you enter new relationships, take on new responsibilities, or pursue new goals, you'll need to reassess your boundaries to ensure that they continue to serve your best interests. And be open to adjusting your boundaries as your life changes, but always remain firm in protecting your time, your energy, and your emotional well-being. In conclusion, setting boundaries is an act of self-respect, self-preservation, and self-love. It's about taking control of your life, protecting your energy, and ensuring that you're living in alignment with your values. Boundaries are essential for maintaining healthy relationships, managing your time effectively, and preserving your emotional and mental health. Though it can be uncomfortable at first, the more you practice setting boundaries, the easier it becomes. And once you've learned to set and enforce your boundaries, you'll find that you have more energy, more time, and more peace to live the life you truly deserve. Learning to say no is a fundamental skill that can dramatically improve the quality of your life. It may seem simple, yet it is something that many people struggle with on a daily basis. From the workplace to personal relationships, we are often conditioned to say yes to demands, invitations, and requests that do not serve us. This tendency to please others or avoid conflict can lead to exhaustion, resentment, and a sense of being overwhelmed. But learning to say no is not only essential for maintaining your mental and emotional well-being, it is also an important practice in setting healthy boundaries. Saying no is a declaration of self-respect. It means you value your time, your energy, and your priorities enough to protect them. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with your goals, values, or needs, you are essentially saying no to something more important. You are saying no to your own well-being, your time with loved ones, your personal goals, or your ability to recharge. The more you say yes to others, the less you have for yourself. And over time, this can lead to burnout and dissatisfaction. By learning to say no, you reclaim your time and your energy, ensuring that they are directed toward things that matter to you. One of the biggest barriers to saying no is the fear of disappointing others. We live in a society that places a high value on being helpful, accommodating, and obliging. From a young age, we are taught to put others' needs before our own. We fear that saying no will make us seem rude, unkind, or selfish. But the truth is, saying no is not selfish. Saying no is a necessary act of self-care. It allows you to protect your resources, your time, and your peace of mind. When you say yes to everything, you end up overcommitted, stressed, and stretched too thin. You have to realize that you cannot be everything to everyone, and that's okay. You can't pour from an empty cup. If you continuously say yes to things that don't align with your goals, values, or needs, you're setting yourself up for exhaustion and resentment. Learning to say no is also an exercise in asserting your worth. It is recognizing that your time and energy are valuable and deserve to be respected. When you say yes to things that you don't want to do, you send the message that your needs don't matter. On the other hand, when you say no, you are asserting that your needs, desires, and priorities are just as important as anyone else's. Saying no is an act of honoring yourself and acknowledging that you have the right to make choices that are in your best interest. It's about recognizing that you don't need to justify or explain your decisions. You don't need to feel guilty for protecting yourself. You are entitled to your time, your peace, and your well-being. In many cases, we say yes because we fear conflict or rejection. We want to be liked and avoid the discomfort that comes with saying no. However, what we often fail to realize is that saying no can actually improve our relationships in the long run. When you are honest about your limitations and communicate your boundaries clearly, you set a precedent of respect and honesty in your relationships. People may be initially disappointed when you say no, but they will ultimately respect your decision. On the other hand, if you constantly say yes out of fear of disappointing someone, you may build up resentment over time, which can lead to frustration and strain in the relationship. Being honest about your needs and boundaries creates space for healthier, more authentic connections. It allows you to show up as your true self without the burden of constantly people-pleasing. The fear of disappointing others is often rooted in a deeper fear of rejection. We worry that if we say no, people will stop liking us, stop inviting us, or stop relying on us. But here's the reality: you cannot be everything to everyone, and trying to do so will only lead to burnout. People who truly care about you will respect your boundaries. They will understand that your time and energy are limited and that you need to prioritize what's important to you. It's important to remember that saying no doesn't mean you are rejecting the person or their request. It simply means you are choosing not to engage in something that doesn't serve you. Saying no is an invitation to prioritize what truly matters to you and to make space for the things that bring you joy, fulfillment, and peace. Another common reason people struggle with saying no is the pressure to be constantly busy. In today's fast-paced world, we are often conditioned to believe that being busy equals being successful. We are told that we need to constantly be on the go, that every moment should be filled with productivity and achievement. But the truth is, being busy doesn't necessarily mean you're being productive. It just means you're filling your time with things that may not be meaningful or fulfilling. Saying no allows you to prioritize the things that matter most to you. It helps you step off the hamster wheel of constant busyness and take time for what truly brings you joy and satisfaction. It's okay to take breaks, to slow down, and to give yourself permission to rest. Rest is not a luxury, it's a necessity for maintaining your mental and physical health. Saying no also involves learning to trust yourself. Often we say yes because we don't trust our own judgment or instincts. We second guess ourselves and worry about what others will think. But when you learn to say no, you are learning to trust your own needs and boundaries. You are trusting that you know what's best for you and that you have the right to protect your time and energy. Saying no is an act of self-trust. It's trusting that you can make decisions that align with your goals and values, even if they're not popular or convenient. When you trust yourself, you stop seeking external validation and start making choices that are true to who you are and what you want in life. One of the most empowering things about learning to say no is the freedom it brings. Saying no allows you to create space in your life for the things that truly matter. It allows you to focus on your goals, invest in your relationships, and pursue the things that bring you joy and fulfillment. When you stop saying yes to everything, you free yourself from the pressure and expectation to meet everyone else's needs. You can focus on your own priorities without guilt or shame. But saying no is not about rejecting others. It's about making room for the things that will help you grow, succeed, and thrive. Saying no also requires a shift in mindset. It requires you to move away from a scarcity mentality and embrace an abundance mentality. Often we fear that if we say no, we'll miss out on opportunities or disappoint others. But in reality, saying no opens up space for more meaningful opportunities to come into your life. It allows you to focus your energy on what truly matters and to create a life that is aligned with your values and goals. By saying no to the things that drain you, you create room for the things that nourish you. As you learn to say no, it's important to remember that you don't have to offer explanations or justifications. You don't need to make excuses or apologize for setting boundaries. Saying no is your right, and it doesn't require an explanation. You can simply say no with kindness and clarity and leave it at that. You don't owe anyone an explanation for prioritizing yourself. Saying no is an act of self-respect, and it's important to honor that. In conclusion, learning to say no is a powerful tool for protecting your time, energy, and emotional well-being. It allows you to assert your needs and priorities, build healthier relationships, and reclaim control over your life. Saying no is not about being selfish or rejecting others. It's about honoring yourself and creating space for what truly matters. By learning to say no, you open up the possibility for more meaningful connections, more focused energy, and a more fulfilling life. So the next time you feel the pressure to say yes, remember that saying no is not only okay, it's necessary for your well-being. Pleasing everyone is a natural inclination for many people. From an early age, we are taught to be polite, considerate, and accommodating to avoid conflict and make others happy. This desire to please others stems from a deep-rooted need for acceptance, approval, and love. However, over time, this habit can become exhausting, unfulfilling, and ultimately detrimental to our well-being. The truth is that no matter how hard we try, it's impossible to please everyone. In the process, we risk losing sight of ourselves and our own needs. We're learning to stop pleasing everyone. We can reclaim our sense of identity, cultivate self-respect, and build more authentic relationships with others. The first step in stopping the habit of people-pleasing is to understand that it's a learned behavior. We are often conditioned by society, family, and cultural expectations to prioritize the needs of others above our own. The need to please others can be driven by a fear of rejection, the desire to fit in, or the wish to avoid confrontation. For many people, the idea of saying no or standing up for themselves is intimidating because it might lead to disapproval or criticism. This fear of judgment or conflict often leads to an overwhelming need to be liked and accepted, and we end up sacrificing our own desires and boundaries in the process. However, constantly trying to please others comes at a cost. It can lead to feelings of frustration, resentment, and burnout. When we are focused on meeting the expectations of everyone around us, we lose sight of our own needs and desires. We may say yes to things we don't want to do, take on responsibilities that are not ours to bear, or suppress our own opinions to avoid disagreement. Over time, this pattern can cause emotional exhaustion, a lack of fulfillment, and a sense of being unappreciated. We may begin to feel like we are living our lives for others rather than for ourselves. Stopping the habit of pleasing everyone is about learning to put yourself first. It's about recognizing that your needs, desires, and boundaries are just as important as those of the people around you. The key is to shift from seeking external validation to cultivating internal validation. When we constantly seek approval from others, we become dependent on their opinions for our sense of worth. This creates an unhealthy dynamic where our self-esteem is tied to how others perceive us. The problem with this approach is that we cannot control how others feel or what they think, and no amount of pleasing others will ever guarantee their approval. True self-worth comes from within, and when we learn to validate ourselves, we stop seeking approval from others. The key aspect of breaking free from the need to please everyone is setting clear boundaries. Boundaries are essential for protecting our emotional, mental, and physical well-being. They define where we end and others begin. They allow us to take control of our lives. Without boundaries, we open ourselves up to being taken advantage of, drained by the demands of others, and overwhelmed by the constant need to please. Learning to set boundaries means saying no when necessary, speaking up for ourselves, and taking time for self-care. It also means recognizing that we have the right to prioritize our own needs without feeling guilty or selfish. Setting boundaries is not about rejecting others or being harsh. It's about respecting ourselves and taking responsibility for our own well-being. Another critical part of stopping the habit of people-pleasing is learning to embrace discomfort. The idea of disappointing others or facing conflict can feel unsettling, but it's important to understand that discomfort is a natural part of life and growth. When we stop trying to please everyone, we may face resistance or criticism from those who are accustomed to having their needs met by us. They may try to guilt us into doing what they want or express disappointment in our decisions. So while this can be uncomfortable, it's important to remember that we are not responsible for other people's emotions or reactions. Our decisions are our own, and we have the right to prioritize our well-being. Embracing discomfort means being willing to stand firm in our choices, even when it's difficult or unpopular. Over time, this discomfort becomes easier to manage, and we become more comfortable in asserting our boundaries and honoring our needs. In addition to embracing discomfort, it's also essential to recognize the importance of self-care. People-pleasing often stems from a lack of self-care as we put the needs of others above our own. We may feel that we don't have the right to take care of ourselves or that we should always be available to help others. But self-care is not selfish. It's necessary for our physical, emotional, and mental health. When we neglect ourselves in favor of others, we end up depleted, resentful, and disconnected from our own needs. Taking care of ourselves means recognizing that we deserve rest, relaxation, and time to recharge. It also means making space for activities and people that bring us joy and fulfillment, rather than constantly sacrificing our time and energy to please others. One of the most important aspects of stopping the habit of pleasing everyone is learning to trust ourselves. When we constantly seek approval from others, we send the message that we don't trust our own judgment or instincts. We rely on others to tell us what is right or acceptable rather than listening to our inner voice. Trusting ourselves means recognizing that we have the ability to make decisions that are in our best interest. It means believing in our worth and our ability to navigate life on our own terms. When we trust ourselves, we no longer feel the need to seek validation from others, and we can make choices that align with our values, goals, and desires. At the heart of people-pleasing is the fear of rejection. We worry that if we say no or set boundaries, we will lose the approval or love of others. However, this fear is often exaggerated and based on unrealistic expectations. The truth is, when we stop pleasing everyone, we create space for more authentic and fulfilling relationships. People who truly care about us will respect our boundaries and appreciate us for who we are, rather than for what we can do for them. In fact, by being true to ourselves and setting clear boundaries, we attract people who are aligned with our values and who respect our needs. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, trust, and understanding, not on the need to constantly please and appease others. In the process of letting go of the need to please everyone, we also learn to embrace our imperfections. We live in a society that often values perfection, achievement, and external success, but the reality is that no one is perfect. We all have flaws, limitations, and areas for growth. Trying to please everyone requires us to suppress these imperfections and present an idealized version of ourselves to the world. But this is exhausting and ultimately unfulfilling. When we stop trying to please everyone, we allow ourselves to be imperfect, vulnerable, and authentic. We embrace our uniqueness and stop apologizing for who we are. By embracing our imperfections, we create space for self-acceptance and self-love, and we stop seeking validation from external sources. As we begin to stop pleasing everyone, we also begin to cultivate a deeper sense of inner peace. The constant pressure to meet the expectations of others creates stress, anxiety, and inner turmoil. But when we learn to prioritize our own needs and desires, we create a sense of calm and balance. We stop living our lives for others and start living for ourselves. This inner peace comes from knowing that we are worthy of love, respect, and care, regardless of how others feel about us. It comes from the understanding that we are enough just as we are, and that we do not need to prove ourselves to anyone. Stopping the habit of pleasing everyone is not an overnight process. It takes time, practice, and self-compassion. There will be moments of doubt, guilt, and discomfort, but these are all part of the journey. As we continue to stop pleasing everyone, we grow stronger, more resilient, and more confident in ourselves. We learn to trust our judgment, honor our boundaries, and prioritize our well-being. And in doing so, we create space for more authentic, fulfilling, and meaningful relationships, as well as a life that is truly our own. Self-care and self-respect are two fundamental concepts that go hand in hand, often intertwined in ways that shape how we live our lives and interact with others. They are not just buzzwords or trends, but core principles that allow us to cultivate a deeper understanding of ourselves, our needs, and our worth. When we speak about self-care, we often think of physical activities such as getting enough rest, eating nutritious food, or exercising. However, self-care extends far beyond these physical practices and includes emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being. It is an ongoing process of honoring who we are, acknowledging our limits, and actively choosing to nourish our bodies, minds, and souls. Similarly, self-respect is the internal compass that guides how we treat ourselves, how we allow others to treat us, and how we navigate the challenges and obstacles of life. For many, the journey towards self-care and self-respect begins with an awareness that something is missing or out of balance in their lives. This realization can be prompted by stress, burnout, dissatisfaction, or simply a nagging feeling that they are not living as authentically as they should. Often the need for self-care and self-respect becomes apparent when we start noticing signs of neglect, emotional exhaustion, physical fatigue, irritability, or a general sense of disconnection. These signs are our body's way of telling us that we have been overextending ourselves, giving too much to others, or failing to nurture ourselves in the way that we deserve. Self-care is about tuning into our bodies and minds and responding to their needs. In today's fast-paced world, many people prioritize their responsibilities, work, family, and relationships while neglecting their own needs. They believe that in order to succeed, they must give all of themselves, all of the time. This constant giving often leaves them depleted, unable to function at their highest potential, or worse, causing them to burn out. True self-care requires a shift in mindset. It involves recognizing that we are worthy of care, attention, and time just as much as the people we love and the things we value. One of the first steps in cultivating self-care is recognizing the importance of rest. In a culture that glorifies productivity and hustle, rest is often seen as a luxury, something that can only be afforded once all the tasks have been completed. This mindset leads to exhaustion and eventually to physical and mental burnout. However, rest is a crucial component of self-care. It is when we rest that our bodies heal, our minds recharge, and we are able to process our thoughts and emotions. Whether it's taking a nap, getting a good night's sleep, or simply disconnecting from technology, rest is essential for our well-being. It allows us to show up as our best selves in all areas of our lives, whether at work, in our relationships, or within ourselves. Another key aspect of self-care is nourishment. This goes beyond just the food we eat, though that is an important part of the equation. Nourishment includes everything that sustains us physically, mentally, and emotionally. It means filling ourselves up with what makes us feel whole and complete. This might include engaging in activities that bring us joy, like reading, painting, or spending time with loved ones. It could involve practicing mindfulness, journaling, or spending time in nature. It may also involve seeking professional support, such as therapy or counseling, to address mental health needs. Nourishment is about giving ourselves permission to receive what we need to feel replenished and energized. It's about recognizing that we are not meant to run on empty and that it is okay to take time to fill our cups before giving to others. Mental self-care is just as important as physical self-care. It involves maintaining a healthy mindset and emotional balance. Mental self-care can take many forms, from practicing mindfulness and meditation to setting aside time for hobbies and creative expression. It also involves confronting and managing negative thought patterns. Our thoughts have the power to shape our experiences, and if we allow negative or self-critical thoughts to dominate, they can take a toll on our well-being. Self-care in this context means becoming aware of these thoughts and choosing to replace them with healthier, more empowering ones. It means acknowledging our limitations and being kind to ourselves when we make mistakes. It also means setting realistic expectations for ourselves rather than striving for unattainable perfection. On the other hand, self-respect is the recognition of our inherent worth and dignity as human beings. It is the practice of valuing ourselves enough to demand the best treatment from others and to refuse to accept anything less than we deserve. Self-respect requires us to draw boundaries that protect our time, energy, and emotional well-being. It involves saying no when necessary, not out of selfishness, but out of a deep understanding that we are entitled to prioritize ourselves and our needs. When we respect ourselves, we are less likely to tolerate mistreatment or disrespect from others. We understand that we deserve love, kindness, and consideration, and we set standards for the way we allow others to treat us. This doesn't mean being harsh or judgmental, but it does mean being firm in our expectations and not compromising on what we believe is right. Self-respect means standing up for ourselves when necessary, whether it's in personal relationships, at work, or in social settings. It's about having the courage to speak up when something doesn't sit right with us, even if it's uncomfortable or inconvenient. Often, people who struggle with self-respect have a tendency to tolerate poor treatment from others because they believe they are not worthy of better. This might be due to past experiences, negative self-talk, or societal conditioning. They might feel obligated to stay in toxic relationships or accept less than they deserve in order to avoid conflict or fear rejection. However, self-respect requires that we confront these beliefs and take action to protect our emotional health. It means choosing to let go of relationships, jobs, or situations that do not serve our highest good. It involves making the decision that we are worth more than the pain, disappointment, or toxicity that we may have allowed into our lives in the past. The foundation of self-respect is self-awareness. It's about understanding who we are, our values, strengths, weaknesses, and desires, and using that knowledge to guide our decisions. Self-awareness helps us navigate life with clarity and purpose. It allows us to know when something feels right or wrong for us and to trust our instincts when making choices. Self-awareness also helps us grow and evolve as we reflect on our experiences and learn from them. When we are self-aware, we can identify areas where we need to practice more self-care or where we need to assert our boundaries more clearly. Self-care and self-respect work together to create a life that is fulfilling, authentic, and aligned with our true values. When we practice self-care, we are honoring our bodies, minds, and spirits, ensuring that we have the energy and resources to live fully. When we practice self-respect, we are affirming our worth and demanding that others treat us with the same level of dignity that we show ourselves. The combination of these two principles enables us to lead lives of integrity, where our actions align with our values and our relationships reflect mutual respect and care. In conclusion, self-care and self-respect are not selfish acts, but necessary components of living a healthy, balanced life. They are about recognizing that we deserve love, care, and attention, both from others and from ourselves. Practicing self-care ensures that we have the physical, mental, and emotional resources to thrive, while practicing self-respect helps us set the boundaries and standards that protect our well-being. Together, these practices empower us to live with purpose, authenticity, and strength, allowing us to become the best version of ourselves and to engage with the world in a meaningful, positive way. So stop apologizing for standing up for yourself. Stop feeling guilty for saying no. Stop shrinking yourself to make others feel comfortable. You've got a purpose to fulfill, and you can't do that if you're constantly bending, breaking, and bowing to the whims of others. It's time to stand firm. It's time to set boundaries. It's time to respect yourself enough to demand the same from others. You don't have to be rude, but you do have to be resolute. As I close, I want to leave you with this thought: you cannot pour from an empty cup. If you're constantly giving and never replenishing, you'll run out of what you need to fulfill your purpose. So protect your peace, guard your heart, and stand firm in who you are. You are not called to please everyone. You are called to fulfill your purpose. And you cannot do that if you're being soft to everyone. So tonight, I challenge you: stand tall, set boundaries, and walk boldly in your purpose. Then you.